If I must starve, let it be in your arms. By Ignium 807. Chapter 12. Geralt's world comes crashing down at lunch. It ends in 5 words, spoken by Eskel's low voice. Jaskier is in the kitchen with Vesemir. Geralt isn't sure what he'd missed, but the two of them cook together nearly every meal now. 5 words. That's all it takes.
He's going to die someday.
Lambert's fork clatters against his plate.
Shut up, Eskel!
But he will.
Eskel is sitting on the floor watching the fire. He stiffs the board.
Us not talking about it won't stop that. He'll die either way.
Geralt lets out a low growl. He has spent 14 years pointedly not thinking about Jaskier's mortality. His death is inevitable, yes, but the pain of dwelling on it is avoidable. And as Jaskier is so fond of pointing out, Geralt is a master of avoidance.
We have time,
Lambert whispers.
Do we?
Eskel finally turns from the fire to meet his brother's eyes.
Humans slow down before they die. He won't be able to travel at some point sooner rather than later if he keeps running toward danger like an idiot and ends up injured. Soon enough he won't be able to make it up the mountain, and then we lose our winters with him too. He'll be gone from our lives long before he actually dies.
Stop. Geralt snarls.
Fucking stop. You don't want to talk about it because you know I'm right.
Shut up!
Lambert is on his feet, eyes blazing.
You bastard! Why can't you just be happy with what you have?
Eskel pulls a twig from the kindling pile near the fireplace and feeds it to the flames. He speaks through a throat of broken glass.
I can't stop thinking about it. Dreamt about it last night, and now...
He trails off and stands, brushing dust off the back of his pants. His face is closed off and angry. At destiny. At mortality. Geralt knows the look well.
Figured if I had to suffer, you two might as well join me.
Fuck you, Geralt says. He's about to say more when a bright voice calls from the hallway that leads to the kitchen.
Geralt, you'll never believe what...
Jaskier rounds the corner with bounce in his step, but pulls up short when he sees the witches around the fire. The smile falls from his face, replaced by a look of worry.
What's wrong?
Damn him! Geralt usually enjoys Jaskier's ability to read his expressions. It helped in the early days of their relationship when he was even worse with words than he is now, and it helps every day on the road because Jaskier can tell what he needs before he asks, can tell he's about to snap a few seconds before it actually happens. But sometimes it's terrifying not being able to hide. Thinking about Jaskier's death shoots pain through his veins worse than any potion, and Jaskier can see it written all over his face.
Nothing,
he grunts. It's a bald-faced lie, and everyone in the room knows it.
Okay,
Jaskier says. He glances at Lambert and Eskel, then back at Geralt.
Tell me later.
Geralt had forgotten about the pendants, about Jaskier's direct silent line of communication straight to his head. Is disconcerting to hear at all, and the situation is only made worse by the fact that Geralt will not be telling him later. It's not Lambert and Eskel's presence that is making him tight-lipped. This is a topic that Jaskier doesn't need to hear about in front of anyone. Ever! Geralt grunts again in response, answering nothing, and does his best to ignore Jaskier's crestfallen expression. I'm going hunting, Lambert says. He grabs a bow and arrow from the wall and strides out of the room without so much as a glance in Jaskier's direction. His unfinished meal is still steaming when the doors close behind him. Something dark curls into Jaskier's scent, the burnt sugar smell of confusion and hurt. It sets Geralt on edge.
Ignore him. What did you want to tell us about?
Jaskier shakes his head and tucks himself under Geralt's arm.
Nothing really. Don't worry about it.
Geralt wants to push, but the hurt is disappearing from his scent with every passing second, so he keeps his mouth shut. He wants to ask Jaskier to tell a story. Anything. Just so Geralt can focus on his voice instead of the images of Jaskier's body that flitter past his eyes. Broken and bleeding and old. He wants to ask, but he knows he can't, because a request like that would set off Jaskier's "something is wrong" alarm before Geralt could finish forming the words. He settles for pulling Jaskier closer instead, his quick human heartbeat a blessed rush in Geralt's ears. Jaskier knows what people think of him. He's ditzy and loud, yes. He wears impractical clothes, and he's not cautious enough around monsters, and before Geralt, he slept with a lot of people he should not have slept with. He'll admit that to anyone. Brag about it, actually. But silly as he might be, no one is fool enough to call him unobservant, which is why Jaskier knows that something is very, very wrong. Lambert storming out of lunch was first. Then it was Eskel turning down their usual loot lesson, avoiding Jaskier's eyes as he made up some excuse about needing a bath. Alone. Geralt is quieter than normal, which is impressive for a man so stoic, and when they make love in the afternoon, he's gentle, and not, I love you so much, I want to fuck you slowly gentle. It's more I'm worried one of us is going to break if I fuck you properly kind of gentle. That kind of lovemaking is reserved for one of their frequent near-death experiences. It has no place here at Kaer Morhen, where they're supposed to be safe. As near as Jaskier can tell, nothing has changed. No monsters, no mages, no destiny mucking about in their lives. It was a perfectly normal morning until suddenly, painfully, it wasn't. He thought he could deal with it, let them fight him off or drink it away in the evening and wake up the next morning in the blissful state of relaxation that came from having 3 very warm, very cuddly bedmates. His witchers would come back to him when they worked through whatever was wrong. That's what he told himself. Then they stopped touching him. Not entirely, not enough for him to call them on. Little things like Eskel leaning away from a touch to his bicep. Lambert doesn't drape an arm around Jaskier at dinner. Geralt accepts Jaskier's hands in his hair, but he stops reaching out in return. No bumps off shoulders in the halls. No hands at his waist when he passes around tankards of ale. No fingers in on his skin or lips against his neck or thighs pressed hard against his own. Nothing. For the first time in months, Jaskier goes to sleep cold. It has been a while since Eskel felt this detached, since the craving for touch and connection prickled underneath his skin. He hurts in a way he hasn't since he met Jaskier. And he's right there! All dusky hair and smiles that aren't quite as shining as they were a week ago. Right there! Just out of reach because every time he reaches out, the sweet relief of touch is swept away by the screaming, burning horror of his own hateful voice. He's going to die someday! His dream still plagues him. Jaskier torn apart by a werewolf. Jaskier scarred and scratched from years on the road. Jaskier slamming against a tree in a forest and not getting up again. No matter how loud Eskel screams, he never gets up again. So as much as he can manage, he doesn't touch. They still sleep in the same bed. Jaskier would ask too many questions if they didn't. But he doesn't curl his clothes. He doesn't bury his face in Jaskier's hair. He aches. Funny, he'd forgotten what that felt like. A week after Eskel's announcement by the fireplace, frustration is a thundercloud over Kaer Morhen. Vesemir retires early, citing exhaustion from hunting a deer for their dinner. Geralt knows the real reason is that he can't stand the oppressive scent of sadness that hangs around the main hall. A minute after Vesemir disappears, Jaskier stands up and slams his hands down on the table. Enough! His voice shakes, anger and pain swirling in his scent, and a hot rush of guilt sweeps down Geralt's spine. I'm done being miserable. I'm done dealing with you all avoiding me, and I am especially, absolutely fucking done with the lies! Jaskier, Lambert dies. Nope, I don't want to hear it. All 3 of you have been lying through your teeth for the last week that nothing is wrong when something is very clearly terrible. So someone better speak the fuck up. The truth, this time. Or what? Eskel asks, fear turning his words sharp. You'll write a nasty song about us. Jaskier turns on him, hurt dull in his eyes, and Eskel makes it sound like he's been slapped. No, actually, I haven't worked so hard to build up witches' reputations just to tear it all down, but I will go sleep somewhere else, since you all clearly can't stand being around me anymore. Eskel nearly shatters the tankard in his hand. That's not what this is about, he says firmly. Oh, it's not? Jaskier throws his arms wide and lets out a bitter laugh. Could have fooled me! You're all acting like I'm some kind of monster! He chokes back a sob. In a voice so broken, Geralt can barely hear it. He asks, What did I do? That's it. Geralt is on his feet and at Jasker's side, pulling his head against his chest like he can hold the conversation at bay. Just a little longer.
Nothing. I swear to all the gods, Jaskier, you haven't done anything wrong. Then why?
Geralt steps away. He can't help it. Lambert hovers a few feet from them, looking as helpless as Geralt feels, and Eskel's hands are fists at his sides. Each looks to the other, silently begging them to speak. Eskel is the one who finally makes the leap.
Jaskier, you...
He breaks off to run a shaking hand on his face.
You're human. We've known that for a while, but it finally hit home and we just couldn't touch you, knowing we're going to lose you.
Confusion sweeps across Jasker's face, his brows lowered and mouth puckered in a way Geralt would have found sweet in any other situation. What? A hysterical laugh makes its way out of his throat.
But I'm not!
Silence. Every muscle in Geralt's body locks up, blood roaring past his ears in a deafening wave. He stares at Jaskier, uncomprehending.
You're not what, Jaskier?
A new smell twists in the air. Acrid and burning. Fetid as a day-old corpse. Geralt has never smelled it on Jaskier before, not like this. Not aimed at him. Jaskier steps away, shaking.
I thought you knew.
Geralt is struck dumb by the scent rolling off of him. It slips down Geralt's throat and chokes him. He can't talk, can barely think through the haze of fear dripping from Jaskier's pores.
You're not human,
Eskel says. Wonder shines through in his voice, but Jaskier is too far gone to hear it. He keeps backing away, hands curled against his chest in a protective gesture that grabs what's left of Geralt's sanity and shatters it.
I'm sorry, Jaskier whispers. I didn't mean to. I thought...
He turns on his heel and Geralt's soul screams at him to move, to run, to go to Jaskier and hold him tight and never let him go, but his feet are rooted to the floor like he's cursed as Jaskier retreats, the smell of fear around him thicker than ever. Lambert snaps out of it first. He chokes on Jaskier's name and then he's gone, down the hall in a second to bury Jaskier against his chest. His hands are everywhere, running up Jaskier's arms and smoothing across his back, touching like none of them have in days.
I'm not going to hurt you,
he mutters against Jaskier's skin.
There's nothing to be afraid of. Please, Jaskier, please, I won't hurt you.
Geralt can't get a grip on his thoughts. Of course, Lambert would never hurt him. Jaskier knows that. Like I'm some kind of monster. Jaskier knows they can never lay a finger on him. He must, but the acrid smell is still there, and Jaskier has twisted himself around so he can look at Geralt, body braced against Lambert's arms like he's expecting a blow. I thought you knew. There are parts of him he never meant for Jaskier to see. The dark parts. The monstrous parts. Parts that no human, no matter how foolish, could see and continue to love. But Jaskier is no human, and Geralt has decades to work on letting him in. Geralt crosses the distance between them with measured steps. He grabs Jaskier's hand, sinks to his knees. Fear like death fills his senses, but he pushes it away, focusing on the thread of sunlight beneath it. One tug pulls Jaskier from Lambert's arms, and Geralt rises up to meet him, catching him with a hand around the hip and lowering him to the floor as gently as Geralt can manage.
You're not a monster, Jaskier. I'm not human. Neither am I.
He presses a kiss beneath Jaskier's ear and tilts his head up.
I should have known,
Geralt murmurs.
The flowers you braid in my hair never wilt.
Jaskier laughs. He's still crying a little, so it's an awkward noise, but it's a laugh all the same. Damn if that doesn't twist something in Geralt's stomach.
The flowers, Geralt? Really? We've been together for 14 years!
So?
So? Jaskier echoes. Incredulity replaces the tremor in his voice.
Geralt, do I look 32 to you?
Geralt runs his eyes down Jaskier's face. He hardly looks a day older than when they met in Posada. Clearly not older than 20.
No,
he says. Jaskier opens his mouth to answer, but Eskel beats him to it. You let him braid flowers in your hair? And just like that, the moment is broken. Tension disappears from Jaskier's body entirely, and he sinks into Geralt's arms around him, boundless. Lambert kneels down next to them and lays a hand on Jaskier's back. Calm floods Geralt's system as the horrible smell of rot disappears completely, overlaid with honey wine and citrus as Jaskier dissolves into a fit of relieved laughter.
You would let him do the same.
Geralt shoots back. Eskel sits beside Jaskier and sinks a hand into his hair, rubbing in little circles as he shrugs.
Yes, I would.
They stay like that until Geralt's knees ache from the strain. He picks up a protesting Jaskier and brings him to the fire, settling down with his legs crossed and his bard held firmly in his lap. Eskel grabs his lute and plays them a few simple tunes until Jaskier relaxes enough to speak up.
Aren't you going to ask what I am?
Lambert's hand traces patterns over his knee. Would you like to tell us?
Wood elf,
Jaskier offers.
a quarter on my mum's side. It's no good for much beyond growing plants a little better than average, and immortality, I guess, though I wasn't expecting that one.
Good, Eskel says.
You'll never be rid of us now.
Vesemir finds them the next morning, still in yesterday's clothes, curled up in a pile around the embers of the fire. He doesn't say a word. The rest of winter passes in a haze of good food and better company. When the snow has melted and the path calls once more, they say their goodbyes. Vesemir claps each witcher on the back before pulling Jaskier into a hug that's as sweet as it is brief. They head down the mountain together, the wolves and their bard, and when they part at the next town, it is with the knowledge that the separation is not forever. Vesemir clears out a closet in one of Kaer Morhen's abandoned hallways. He places Eskel's lute there, alongside a drawer of Jaskier's favorite sweets. Other items join them. A coat Lambert left behind, a gold brocade chemise from the floor of an upstairs hallway that smells suspiciously of two men in the throes of passion. Everything they will need when they return is left carefully folded in the closet for them to find. Through the heat of summer and decay of autumn, through days and weeks and months of silence and stillness, the castle waits. Vesemir closes the doors that winter. The next time he opens them, a metal bird glints against his chest. End of If I Must Starve, Let It Be in Your Arms by Ignium 807. This work is part of a longer series, and I will be recording each piece separately. If you enjoy this recording or the content, feel free to leave a comment below or a review at the original story from the link in the descriptions. Also, feel free to become a member to support this channel.